Joe Rogan's a dork. I'm watching Joe Rogan guest star JD Vance on his show. And Joe Rogan has just been blabbering about the mandating of the Ten Commandments in Texas schools for I don't know how long during the episode. But he's been going on and on about it. And I mean, based on how he feels, he used the words that it's wrong. That's how I feel. After a couple of minutes, I left a comment. Joe Rogan is a dork. The Ten Commandments, where they come from, it's a real place. It's real history. Study the book Exodus. I don't mean to come across vain. I didn't know that myself. But in the interview, he's trying over and over again to get JD Vance to say it's not a good thing. And he's just blabbering. Does this guy even know what the Ten Commandments are? I forget about the second scripture when I was describing my favorite books in the scriptures, I said the first and the last. But the second one is so important. It's called Exodus, and I didn't know this, but Bible's actually a word translated. It means scriptures. It means a collection of writings. That's what Bible means. So when they call it the Bible, it sounds kind of cringe. It doesn't sound right. It's the scriptures is what it really means. And if you ever care to do your due diligence and study them all, not only that, but the history around them. There's so many artifacts around that are from the stories that kind of prove the stories are true. And I tell people over and over again, you need to be on a PhD level of thinking to understand the Bible. But, back to, again, does this guy really know? Does Joe really know what the Ten Commandments really are? And by the way, what they are, they're laws. They're laws we must live by. And they're inscribed in stone tablets by the finger of God himself. So even if it's only just a story, it is a terrifying story. God just doesn't just appear. It's a very special event, and he really doesn't appear again until New Testament timeline is the Christ. After Exodus, we humans are kind of on our own. The Ten Commandments are simply rules for being good people. I'll go over them real quick, and it's kind of in my words. Worship your God, not other gods. Hindus do this. Romans copy this because they thought it was cool. They wanted their own version of it. The Egyptians were doing it in the story of Exodus. Alright, next one. Don't be vain. Don't worship physical things. Keep Sabbath day for rest holy. Honor your mother and father. Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. And do not lie as a witness. Do not covet. I thought it was convert. I don't know why, but covet means don't be a fucking jealous prick. Don't be like a communist, a seething, raging communist. So Joe Rogan's all worried. Calm down. You can still smoke your DMT and see the whole universe. You emo blabberer. Have at it like you can have at the Ten Commandments. Alright. I'm about 1 hour into the podcast. and I guess that's part of Joe Rogan. He's just crying his eyes out about the Ten Commandments. And he's saying it's mega churches, billionaires from mega churches that are doing this. I don't know. Some wording like that. And the thing is, they're not smearing their church logos on this. They're simply talking about preaching the Ten Commandments. How about just in case the story is real, repreach it, and you can ignore it. Nothing says you can choose to do that. And we wash our hands of it. Hey, we tried. Actually, that's what I have a child. That's what I'm kind of doing with him. I'm having him take college courses, and one of them is on Exodus. Another interesting thing. If you ever happen to read the journals from the people who established this country, like in colonial era, pre-colonial era, you'd be kind of horrified by how often they prayed. Now, praying, I looked this up, is considered fundamentally just communicating with God in your own way, thinking about Him, just thinking about things, and God can be praying. I always thought it was literally written prayers and saying them. It's got to be the first time somebody ever used the word literally correct. Then Joe, he's switching subjects. He's talking about, and he's blabbering about some guy, sounding a little nuts, talking about Armageddon to our armed forces. And it's kind of like changing subjects there. We're talking about the Ten Commandments. Then you're talking about some guy preaching about Armageddon. When you change topics and you have no conjunction, when you do, you lose. It's just like tapping out. Even if you don't even know, you tapped out. Like, say, like UFC 1, the guy gets his ankle broken. He lost. Or maybe better yet, it's like being checkmated and thinking the game's still playing. Dude, you'll lose that argument. So, anyway, I want to blabber a little. That's actually a quote I made about being checkmated and thinking the game's still playing. There was a guy that I worked with. He was kind of like a jock type. Tall, strong guy, but he was a super nice guy. I remember how nice he was. It was very comforting to be around this guy. Well, later he got promoted to manager, and as soon as this happened, this guy completely changed. He tried to be this intimidating dickhead, and he would lie and exaggerate. Trying to boast all the time. And the crew I worked with, they were Rhode Island-sized hecklers. So when this guy would try putting on his act, they would surround him and work him up into a frenzy. It was kind of like in the movies, what a bully looks like. It was like watching the bully get tormented. You're seeing a bully get bullied. And his acts of intimidation were always turned into humiliation by these guys. Well, one time, I guess he was all the other guys hunted, and he was trying to brag about being a good hunter. And they were telling him, there's no way you're a good hunter. Only a real man is a good hunter. And then one of the other guys was like, he probably doesn't even own a real gun. He wouldn't even be able to prove it by taking a picture of himself with one. So the next day, this guy comes into work, and he's telling everybody to look at his phone. Here it is. I have a picture of myself holding a shotgun. And so not only did they get that guy worked up enough to take a picture of himself holding a shotgun, one of the guys actually just looked at the shotgun a little close, and they were able to point out that it looks like he just bought the shotgun for the picture because there's a sticker still on the barrel. So I have a few stories about this guy, but at this point, I see what's going on. I jumped in on this whole thing. Well, anyway, something happened on another day. This guy's being mean to me, but I'll get to that at the end of this. This guy was yelling at me for something I did or didn't do, and he said I'm getting reported or something like that, and it was very unfair. And I said I could care less, man. I'll just get a union steward. Anyway, I don't know about. He knew he was pissing me off, and he tried to make fun of me a few minutes later. He said, "Hey, what's wrong? I can tell there's something wrong by the look on your face." And I said, "I'll tell you what's wrong. The problem is you've been checkmated, and you think the game is still playing." Well, you know, everybody was just fucking laughing at him. And then he tried to say something back, and he said, "Well, chess is a game for smart people." But yeah, he was blown the fuck away. He just stopped and stared at me for a good few seconds before he said that. And the entire room just, it was like an atomic bomb of laughter at this guy. So I worked far away from everybody else in this building, and I didn't know any of this was happening at first. But this guy would be coming up to me, and he would be just yelling and screaming at me, being mean to me. You know, he was so nice to me. And it caught me off guard until I was hanging out with everybody the one day, and it happened to be when he come to work with a picture of himself holding a shotgun. So let me leave this one last thing here, because I'm about to end this. A striking commandment, man. Thou shalt not kill. You know, I already said that. You know, I say this: do not trust anybody who does not live by the Ten Commandments. I also treat everybody like they may change, and I know I may change. Who knows? Joe Rogan might be the most avid Ten Commandments person. Anyway, I can't believe I'm listening to this grown-ass man cry about the Ten Commandments. Again, does this guy even know what the Ten Commandments are? Alright, I'm punching out.